Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Brave New World, written by Aldous Huxley. Now, before I go into the summary and analysis of this novel, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, Brave New World is very interesting. It kind of builds upon our world. Right now, in the 21st century, you can kind of be whatever you want so long as you meet the requirements. If you want to be a philosopher, a professor, you can go to school and become that. If you want to be an athlete, you can work hard for it and become that. In Brave New World, all of that is gone. You don't have the ability to choose what you want to be. Human emotions are gone. The human condition or human experiences are gone, and everything is predetermined before you're even born. In the novel, we meet a man by the name of Bernard, and Bernard works in this factory where humans are created. Humans are mass produced on an assembly line. Basically, science is so advanced in this futuristic world where women don't have to have babies anymore. There's no family. There's no marriage. There's no mothers or fathers. Everything is just created in a lab, and all the kids are grown up and raised in the lab to the point where they become adults, and then they just go out and find jobs and get apartments and live by themselves. So Bernard works in this factory, and he's not particularly happy about his life. He's an alpha. There's this class system that determines what you're going to be, where you're going to work, and pretty much what your genetics are equipped or how they're designed specifically for you. If you're an alpha, you're going to be a thinker. You're going to be a person that has a job that involves critical thinking in some way. The next down after alpha is betas. Betas require intelligence, but not as much as alphas. Alphas wear gray, and betas they wear maroon. Under that, you have the gammas, and the gammas they wear green, and they require some intelligence, but not as much as the alphas and the betas. Underneath the gammas, you have the deltas that wear khaki, and they are taught not to. They can't read. They're not the lowest of the low, but they require them to do factory jobs. They require them to do jobs that are more on the side of physical labor. And underneath the deltas, you have the epsilons, and the epsilons they are the individuals that completely illiterate. They can't think for themselves. They're kind of like these objects that are required to do physical labor, and you can imagine that they're genetically created to be physically strong, and they require them to clean sewers and do the most physical of jobs, and that's their lives. Now, nobody, even though this class system exists, even though that you can't move up or down within this class system, everybody's kind of happy because in this society there is no real emotion. Everything is artificial. Even your own emotions are artificial. And to help with that, everybody takes Soma. Soma is this drug that no matter what you're going through, if you're taking Soma, it instantly makes you happy. So the minute, the second, the moment you're sad, the moment that you're not happy with the way that your day is going, the hours going, or your life is going, you take Soma and you forget about it. You're instantly happy, and that fake smile comes on your face. So these people exist in this world. We see Bernard; he's not happy, and he's just trying to figure out different ways to exist or different ways that the world can make sense. There's this girl by the name of Lanina that he's not really dating. No one really dates in this world. Everybody just goes on dates and have sex with anybody that they want to. There's no really customs and social rules around sleeping with people. And so Bernard is interested in Lelina, but Lelina is interested in whoever she wants to be interested in. She's not committed. There's no commitment. No one is committed to anyone. And so several parts in the novel, you do see men saying that Lelina is beautiful and that she's attractive, and she's okay with being with different types of men because there's no couples. No one couples with anybody in this world. And that's one of the ways that makes life so insignificant within Brave New World for Bernard, and later another character by the name of Helmholtz Watson. And Helmut Watson and Bernard, they don't like this world. They don't like living in this world because nothing means anything. People are just having sex everywhere, and they don't have a problem with that because just that's just how things are. And there's no like when you're in a marriage, when you're in a relationship, you're committed to that one person, and you experience life with that one person. No one in the world, no one in the history of the world would have experienced what you experienced with that person. But in Brave New World, there's no commitment. There's no single relationships. Everybody belongs to everybody. So that's how things are. Later, what we see Bernard. He wants to go to this reservation, and this reservation is where the outcasts are sent, where the people who are kind of exiled, or the people that don't have a place within this class society in the world. There's several islands and several places around the world where they send these people, or they keep these people. They don't send them there as like an ultimate punishment. It's just if you can't live in this society, if you can't follow the rules of this society, they just send you there to spend your life. And these reservations are kind of like the world that we live in today, are kind of like the 21st century and the time after it. People couple up in these reservations. People have mothers and fathers. People kind of have normal lives as maybe we in 2020 would define it. And so Bernard gets permission from his director, from the hatchery, and he goes to this savage reservations, as they call them in the novel. He goes there with Lalina, and she can't take it. It's too much for her. She hates the fact that everybody's coupled up. She hates the fact that people has mothers and fathers, and this is just something that's totally against her world. And Lalina just takes Soma, and she kind of like goes to sleep for a couple of days. And Bernard's kind of like left there, and he's kind of like looking at this savage existence, and how people, they kind of find some meaning in each other, and people care about their husbands, and people care about their wives, and people care about their children. It's not a free society where everybody's just doing whatever they want and people are taking Soma. These people, they somewhat, it seems like they care about things, and life maybe have some more meaning to them. Bernard meets a man by the name of John there, and John becomes John the Savage, because in many ways, John doesn't fit into the class society that Bernard comes from. And in the same way, he doesn't fit into the savage reservation because he wasn't born into it. His mother was really left there by Bernard's boss. Before Bernard left his job, the hatchery, the director told him that, he went to the reservation before with this beta that he went with, and she just got lost and he couldn't find her, and he just left. And she didn't die. Her name is Linda. That's John's mother, and that's the John the Savage is the director's son. And so we figure all this out. This all gets, we get the entire story. We kind of listen and hear about how John was raised, and how he learned how to read by reading the plays of Shakespeare. So in the novel, in Brave New World, we do see John speaking like he uses a lot of quotes and a lot of sayings from Shakespeare's plays, because that's how he learned how to read. That's how he learned how to understand human emotions, because in Shakespeare's plays you're gonna get all the types of different human emotions. There's sadness, love, happiness, betrayal, treachery. All of it is in Shakespeare's plays. Shakespeare's play, that one of the reasons why they're so famous and why they're so renowned is because they in many ways represent a lot of human emotions and a lot of struggles and social instability that humankind goes through. So John, that's how he educated himself in of a way. That's how he learned how to read, and that's how he kind of learns how to speak English. So Bernard gets introduced to Linda, John's mother. She kind of tells him how horrible and how unbearable this reservation is. She hates the fact that people are coupled up. She hates the fact that people are having kids. Oh my God, these women are having kids. Linda can't take it. She hates it. She actually gets whipped by the people of this reservation because she was like sleeping with other people's husbands, and they just found that to be repugnant and appalling. So Linda, she hates her existence on this reservation, and she ends up going back to civilization, or Bernard civilization, with John, and um, with Alina. And basically, so they go back to civilization, and life kind of not really resume. We see Bernard gets a little bit of popularity, and he exists in this world where he's kind of like showing off John the Savage, because he's this man from that. He wasn't born in this society. He didn't. He wasn't raised, or he wasn't even genetically modified for a specific place in this society. So he's this ne'er do well, this misfit that now exists in this society that's been created. Um, Linda gets sick. She starts to take a lot of Selma to make herself happy, to make herself exist. And she ends up dying, and John has a hard time with this. I mean, no one really understands his emotions because he loved his mother. He's a man that has emotions, and this was very weird for this world because people don't have mothers, people don't have fathers. Nobody can understand his emotions and his feelings. Um, and so John the Savage, he kind of goes on this rampage where he starts throwing Solma out of the windows, and this causes a scene, and Bernard and Helmets, they come in, and they kind of like take John, and then Mustafa, who's this controller, who's this supervisor of a big portion of Europe. He kind of like brings them all in, and he has this really in-depth conversation with them. Um, one thing that's really interesting is, before we talk about this conversation that Mustafa has with them, the relationship between John and Lena is really interesting because John, he has emotions. He has real human emotions. He represents us in the 21st century and the time before us a lot because we experience sadness, we experience depression, we experience joy and happiness. And John, he has true and real emotions. He likes Lenina. He wants to be with Lenina. But Lenina doesn't understand his deep emotions. She doesn't understand where he's coming from. Like, no one in Brave New World, and the futuristic society of Brave New World, understand what love is. None of them understand how to process it. And so when Lenina kind of like tells John that she wants to sleep with him, that she wants to be with him, this is for the short term. John, he doesn't want that. He wants to marry her. He wants to be with her. He wants to kind of like even have a family with her, and she's incredibly appalled by this. And they kind of like have a fight, and she still doesn't understand him, and he's just appalled by her, and she's appalled by him. Bernard and Helmets, they have this conversation. This is like back with the conversation with Mustafa. Mustafa kind of tells them that we can't have Shakespeare in this society. We can't have the Bible or religion or all these human concepts, all these human creations of the past. They can't exist here. The reason why is because there's no depression, there's no sadness, there's no conflict, there's no triumph. There's none of that. And in Brave New World, the entire world has been controlled by these controllers, and everywhere, every place, every city is exactly the same. And because of Soma, everyone is always happy. Everyone is always experiencing this artificial happiness. And so they can't, Mustafa kind of tells them that they can't understand Shakespeare and the problems of Shakespeare and the sad and depressing parts of Shakespeare. It wouldn't make any sense. There's social stability in this world, and a lot of famous authors, a lot of famous works of the past, a lot of famous poetry talk about and express ideas from social instability and things that make the world not as pleasant as they want it to be. And so because of that, um, they can't have this going around. And so that's the explanation Mustaf, this controller, tells to Bernard and Helmets. And pretty much after this, Bernard and Helmets, they get pretty much they become castaways, and they actually exile them to islands where the rule breakers go. And John, he can't go with them. He pretty much goes at the end of the novel, kind of like isolates himself in a lighthouse. And he has to live with his emotions. He has to live with all the things that he has in his mind, and that all the things that he experiences as the only human being that has true emotions in the world. He has to kind of experience it by himself. So he goes to this lighthouse and he lives there by himself. And he starts whipping himself because he's like punishing himself, or that's just the way he chooses to express himself in this lighthouse. And this makes like national news, and people they go to the lighthouse, and a lot of people go to the lighthouse and they start watching him whip himself, and they demand that he keeps whipping himself because they want to be entertained by this. Now in this world, again, keep in mind that sexual behavior is not frowned upon. There's no rules around sex, and people are just sleeping with everybody. So they have this chant that they always say "orgy porgy" before large crowds of people just gather up, and they all just take off their clothes and just start having sex. And you know, when John starts to lash out at them and starts to talk to them, and he even attacks Lenina in the crowd, they all take Soma and they start screaming out orgy porgy, and they start having sex in just all together. Just this huge jumble of them just doing that. And John can't take of it, and it's just too much for him. He can't live in this world. He can't live in this society. He can't live in the reservation. There isn't a place in the world for him. It's either you're born on a reservation where there's coupling and there's people experiencing emotions in some way, or either you're born in this society that has no emotions and no rules and no restrictions on anything. And so John, he just can't exist in this world, and basically he hangs himself at the end of the novel. And that's really how the novel ends. Bernard and Helmets get exiled. John commits suicide, and Lena doesn't understand any of it because she wasn't genetically modified to understand any of it or be a part of John's world, or to she wasn't even mentally. She didn't have the mental capabilities to understand even Bernard and Helmets, because Bernard was an alpha, and alphas have some critical thinking abilities and some intellectual capabilities that are higher than the betas and the gammas and everybody else underneath that. So they get exiled. Mustafa keeps his world under control. And that's really Brave New World. It's all about mass production. It's all about people buying. Mustafa wants to keep everyone buying materials, everyone in social stability, people making money. And that's the way that the world keeps going. No emotions, um, no experiences whatsoever. You take Soma, you sleep with whoever you want, no mothers, no fathers, no identity whatsoever. And that's really the world. So, in terms of analysis, there's a lot to talk about within this novel. From my perspective, I think that John the Savage represent us, people in the 2020, people in the 20th century, people before this time. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we have true emotions. We have things that we express on a daily basis. And John dying kind of shows us how our ideas, our thoughts, our concepts do die in this world, and there's just literally no place for them in this world. And it's incredibly sad, and it just shows you how in this type of world humans really don't exist, because if you really think about it, they're just property. They're all process, because even at the beginning, you see the humans being hatched, you see them being built, you see them being genetically modified for a specific purpose. So, from my perspective, I don't even think that the people that we see, Linda, the director, Bernard, they're not honestly, from our human perspective, from our human conditions, and the human experiences that we have as human beings, they're not really true to that, and they're not really real people, because if we don't have our emotions and the way we process the world and the way we see the world, if all of those are kind of like taken out of us and we are just puppets of the government and puppets of Mustaf and the way he wants the world to be run, are we really humans? Genetically, we might share um, the same genes as a species, but if we can't exist in a world where we can create our art, our experiences, our stories, our novels, if we can express ourselves and have a identity, we're not humans, because really what defines humans is our identities, our experiences, our beings in the world. And when you take that away, it takes humanity away, because humanity, um, human experiences are all about tragedy and horror and triumphs and hardships. You take those things away, and there's, humans pretty much cease to exist. Their bodies, the shell of the human being might exist, but the experiences, the thoughts and mindsets and emotions are gone basically in Brave New World. And so that says a lot about what the world can become into, what the world can become. And I feel like, and what's really interesting from my perspective with this novel is that I don't think that Brave New World is so insane to think that might happen one day, because increasingly the world is becoming more, um, it's becoming smaller. Globalization is becoming more of a reality every day, and we do see world governments forming, world establishments forming. I don't think Brave New World will happen in um, the separate ways it happens in the novel in the real world, but I can see 100, 200 years, 300 years from 2020, you can see global corporations running different parts of the world. I don't really think that governments will run the world in the future. I think um, conglomerates, companies that become monopolies over time, they will, in a way, control the world. Because if we even look at 2020, a lot of companies have such an outreach that they reach everyone and everything all around the world. So there is some truth to Brave New World, and it's not a far fetched idea. It's not a far fetched concept, and it's very shocking of the truths that can exist within this novel, and what could happen to humankind. Even though this is not a novel to say that this is what's going to happen, but from my perspective, there is some truth to what can happen in this novel and in the real world. The other significant thing that I see happening in this novel, and that's really interesting in this novel, is that um, emotions mean a lot to human beings. Again, if you take human emotions away from the picture, from our experiences, I don't think we're humans, because human experiences, the human condition, the way we live, that that's what makes us who we are. That's what gives us identity. And that's the thing that made John the Savage, Bernard, and Helmets unhappy in their lives, because they didn't have an identity. They didn't have, um, they weren't individual beings. This society wanted them to just be a part of the group, of the function of society. Brave New World, the entire book, the entire civilization, the entire world functions as an assembly line. That's why in the novel they kind of worship Ford, because Ford was the inventor of the assembly line, and he's kind of the only individual from our world that kind of survives in Brave New World, because he created the assembly line, and that's literally the number one um, essential aspect of Brave New World and the society within it. So that is my summary analysis of Brave New World. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.